All right. Second talk of the evening, second main talk of the evening. We have the first international speaker here at Flutter Belgium. So thanks for your efforts to come here and to speak for all of us. You're doing a lot of talks elsewhere in Europe, I think, as well. You're from
in Europe.
Yeah, all right. You're from Bordeaux,
Yeah.
so you had quite a trip today.
It's
But,
okay.
it's
It's a
okay.
neighbor. We're a neighbor. You see, I mean, like closer to the other side, but I'm like very happy to be here. Very happy to be like your first international speaker.
Yes, indeed. All right. Thanks. So yeah, take the stage and enjoy.
All right. Perfect. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, I'm good to go? Yes, all right, let's go. So today we're going to speak about accessibility. I think it's a topic that's not a lot of other people speak about, so maybe you'll be interested in. I think it's super interesting and you don't have to know a lot about Flutter or anything exactly. It's just pure logic. So firstly, who am I? As somebody introduced me, I'm not from Belgium. I'm from Bordeaux. My name is Enzo Conty. I call myself a senior freelance Flutter developer, but it just means that it's been like 6 years I'm doing like some Flutter, and I'm always been a freelancer. Right now I work for Invertase, but I'm actually working, they're paying me at least for being like an open source software engineer. I'm working on Ubuntu, so if you have issues on Ubuntu, it's probably my fault. And you have also my socials. Okay, so I made a little bit of an agenda, so we'll have a main timeline. So firstly, we're going to speak about accessibility, what it is, what does it matter. The other forms of disabilities, so when we speak about disabilities, what are we exactly speaking about? Then after we'll have the topic about demystifying accessibility. I love this topic, we'll see after. And after we'll see how like the boring, little bit more boring part, which are the solution, because not everything is super easy in this way. All right, let me just change one thing. Yeah, perfect. All right, accessibility. Who actually have no clue of what is accessibility here? No, everybody is an expert. All right, perfect. So I don't have anything to do here, right? Okay, so if we take the definition by Wikipedia, they told us that accessibility is making content and services accessible to the people with disabilities and more generally to all the users. This is the most important part. This is the more generally to all users. So it's not about, when you speak about accessibility, we're not speaking about like, oh yeah, we have to specifically target one handicap. We're speaking about like everybody, and if we can handle handicaps, it's better. It's like bonus point, kind of. So here is like the Wikipedia definition. And now, why should we care? Because that's the main topic. I'm telling like right away, why should we care about accessibility? Because most people are like, oh yeah, accessibility boring. Okay, I'm just going to go on my phone and do something else. So I'm telling you why you should care, and after, if you want to go on your phone, you can. So we have the Worldwide Health Organization, WHO, WHO, who are estimating that around 15% of the global population on Earth have some kind of disabilities or deficiencies. So this is super important because firstly, 15% is a big number. But also, if I didn't convince you correctly with this, you probably can recognize like this flag. It was a little bit more awkward when I do this talk like in London last time. And like starting in 2025, there is something called the European Accessibility Act, EAA. What does exactly that mean? That means like starting 2025, we will now have like some regulation about accessibility in Europe. And 2025 is soon-ish. And what does that exactly mean for us developers and companies? So that means like starting like 2025, if you want to create a new product, it will have to have like some kind of accessibility features. It will have to support some kind of accessibility right to go public, basically. And so we're talking about ATMs, we're talking about like ticket distributor, we're speaking about banks, we're speaking about basically everything. Like everything which is digital, everything that you interact with every day, it will have some kind of accessibility. I don't know, but last time I went to the bank, there was like basically no accessibility features on my ATM. So there is a huge problems with that. So this is like 2025 for the new product, and for the old products, which is basically already in production, they have until 2030, which is like 5 years, is quite short too. So now that I told you, we have like basically two choices. So we are waiting like we are waiting for adding accessibility. So basically we just like don't care whether we'll see in 2030 or 2025. We don't care. Or you become a leader in accessibility right now, right away in 2024. You start making like formation and like start speaking about accessibility, knowing your way and like building application with accessibility. And after becoming like basically a business leader, because this is also what it is. There is a big part of Europe and Europe business in general who will go toward you, because it's a big miss for companies. They need to transition it toward accessibility, but there's not a lot of people who know about accessibility. So this is one of the choices. All right, so now we can check that the thing that we see what is accessibility, we know what is it. So different form of accessibility, there is like three main categories of disabilities. The first one is the sensory disabilities. So what does that mean? We're speaking about blind people or visually impaired people, and deaf and hard to hearing people. So this is pretty clear. I don't think I have to explain anything here. We have like cognitive disabilities, which are more like about dyslexia and ADHD oriented problems. And we also have hyperactivity, but it's probably close-ish to ADHD in what we will speak about later on. And we have mobility disabilities, which is like person with reduced mobility, PRM, and temporary. By temporary, what I mean like tomorrow, I don't know, you go to hiking, you made a bad fall, you break your leg or you break your arm, and you have to go on your phone or do something, and now you have only one arm, so it might be like temporary you have a disability, so you will not be able to use like your arm. There is like plenty other category of disabilities, but otherwise we will be there until tomorrow morning. So what we're going to do is we're just going to speak about the three main ones. And if you want more information on the other, you can basically see me after, or you can also just see all the documentation that I will put after on that. All right, so we know about the form of disabilities. So let's speak about demystifying accessibilities. This is my favorite one, because when I speak with people about accessibility, they say, oh yeah, that's so nice, but my boss will never want to do that because we have to push feature and we have no time to make accessibility. And I agree with this. So I'm going to speak about the lies about accessibility. All right, there is a few sentences like this one. I'm going to go one by one toward them. And this is a sentence that I heard about businesses say, or managers who told me like, oh yes, this is whatever. And I'm going to kind of like to debunk them. So the first one is like, it's only for a few users. And we just saw just before that it's around like 15% of the global population, which is basically 1,183,200,000 people, which is quite a lot. And it's actually more than Europe and the US combined. So if you ever think like, hey, I don't know, I shouldn't care about accessibility, but also my app only have like 100 users, maybe it's a time to kind of check about accessibility. Maybe you can grab some users like this. Okay, I also have the sentence I've been like told quite a lot of time, that accessibility makes my products more expensive to develop. And this is true and false. It kind of depends on where do you start accessibility. Why? Because if you start accessibility when you already have a full-fledged product and you say, oh yeah, now we have to make it accessible, then yes, because maybe you didn't design it correctly, so it's not accessible in the right away. So basically you have to redo some stuff, and yes, it's going to be expensive because you will hire designer, you will hire developer time, you will hire complex testers or something like this, and this takes time. Yes, I agree with this. But in most cases, if it's done correctly, it is not more expensive at all. So false. Also, this one I heard quite a lot of time by banks or huge administration, and they told me like, yeah, my product is way too complicated to be accessible. No way. And for that, I only have like one thing to say. Your product is too simply poorly designed. This is the truth. If you think that a product is not possibly accessible, then it's probably just that you are very wrong and you don't want to put any effort in it. That's the issue usually. So if we also have like this one, to have an accessible product, it must be ugly. This one I heard a lot. Like kind of like, yeah, if you want to have something accessible, you have it to have like big fonts, everything disgusting, you have to scroll a lot, nobody understands anything. And that's not true. And for that I have an example. So I took the Amazon logo from 1995, and this is also the website in 2004 from Amazon. So just for a quick context, in 2004, it means that we already had the iPhone, and the logo is just old. But why is it important? Because nowadays we have this. The Amazon logo is like very distinguishable. We can see it, we understand it very clearly, what the brand is, what does that mean. For somebody on the old logo who was visually impaired, it will be like a huge mess. It can be like not understanding that it's actually an A. What does it represent? And for the website, on the other one, if I just go back, you can see clearly that you have you can't understand what does a navigation menu goes through. Is it like it's not readable? It's like way too small. You don't understand everything, and it's way too crowded. Now we have like a proper navigation, a navigation menu on top. We understand very clearly what does what, and like if you click on a button, you understand very clearly what is a button, what is not, what's the description, what is a product, and basically you know how to navigate on the app without any issue. So for that, it's going to be like sound very, very dumb, but if you want to hear more about designing correctly product, you just have to go on basically very big website. The ones who does it very, very great usually are like Amazon, Netflix, Apple, and stuff like this. So it's just stupid, but like you just kind of have to copy them a little bit. All right, so now we have demystified accessibility. Now we have like a little bit boring part, because we have to speak about solutions. And why we have to speak about solution? Firstly, to fix all the issues that we seen before, but also to not have this mess where we have the Olympic Games who have 144 accessibility violations. So I'm quite ashamed to be French just for that, but we're going to find like how to basically find a solution for all this mess. And I'm sorry about the one who thinks that it's going to be easy. There is no single solution. We just don't have a package that does like accessibility package. You import it, you go in PubSpec YAML, and that's done. No, it doesn't work like this. I'm very, very sorry about you. But we have a set of solutions. And that's why I'm going to go over all the main categories of disabilities, and I'm going to speak one by one what can we do now to facilitate their life. Okay, so for the sensory disabilities, we have again the blind and visually impaired people, and we can do something for them. We can do actually quite a lot of stuff for them. So the first one actually might be like just logic again. We can just increase or change the size of the font and of the component. What does that mean? That means that, for example, usually we have the one which is on the left, So usually when you or me, or for example, anybody who's not visually impaired, we just scroll with the view that we have on the left. Because for us, it's very readable. We can we can see everything, we can understand, and we don't have to zoom more than that. But there is some people who actually go exactly on the opposite and just have their phone all the way up, the maximum size font all the time. And for us, yes, that's disturbing because we think that, yeah, nobody uses that. It's very ugly. But there is plenty of other people that doesn't search especially the beauty, but more the functionality. They want that when they go on a website, when they go on an application, when they go on any product, basically, they want to be able to use it and not just to be able to look at it and not see and not read what's happening there. We also have an issue with the font. For example, we all have known like the MSN era or something like this, where we have like weird font and like everything was like messy and like one character out of two you couldn't understand what it was. So we have to choose carefully our font. For that, there is like a few fonts who are like very, very great for that. We have usually Arial, Calibri, San Francisco, and Google Sun, who are like kind of recommended because they are like very simple and they don't disturb like the reading of the people. I spoke before about the EAA, so the European Accessibility Act. There is in the European Accessibility Act, which is like probably around like 200 pages, there is like this little charts who actually show basically at which the size of a character should be compared to the distance at which one you see it. For example, if you are with your phone, let me grab my phone, you're basically like 20 centimeters from your eyes. The phone is at least. If to you, for example, all of you, you are watching on this big screen, you are like further out. That's why like this character I like the size of my phone. And that actually makes sense because if everything was the size of the character of my phone there, you couldn't see anything. And like the same, if like I had like the character there, the size of one character there on my phone, I couldn't understand anything either. So there is a ratio that we need to conserve, and this is actually super, super important to respect this ratio. Okay, so now we also have, still for the blind and like visually impaired people, we have also the content with the contrast ratio of 4.5 out of 1. What does that even mean? I'm going to go over it. So what does that even mean? It means that basically we want basically a foreground and a background who allow a lot of contrast. We all have been also on some website, like usually Japanese website or this kind of era website, where you have like gray text over black background or all over the place, and like you cannot have to very focus on the text to basically read what does it even mean, because you can't really see what is the background and what is the foreground in this scenario. So for that, we have like website like colors.co that basically are telling you by putting like a foreground and a background color and telling you if this is a good like mix and if you can have a good contrast between your foreground and your background. We also, we were speaking about like 4.5 out of 1. So what does that mean exactly? This is a standard made by Mozilla in the 90s, something like this. And basically what does that mean? If you go to webaim.org, which is a Mozilla website, you can actually see the contrast ratio. So for example, right now I made like a pinkish foreground and a white background, and we see that the contrast ratio is like 1.5 out of 1. And that's not good enough, because basically we can see that after on my text, I fail on every test that they're giving me because we can't see properly, or somebody who is visually impaired will not be able to see properly at least. Okay, so now we have to speak about voiceover and talkback and semantics. Okay, did somebody ever heard about voiceover and talkback, firstly? All right, quite a few. Okay, where's my phone? My phone is there. So when we're speaking about voiceover, voiceover and talkback basically are the same programs. I'm just going to go over the program, what it is, in a few seconds, but when I speak about VoiceOver or TalkBack, they are like basically the same program, but this is the version, Android version and the iOS version. They're both proprietary. But what does that mean? It means that the VoiceOver and TalkBack, they're basically like screen readers. They go over your screen and they just read what they see on the screen. So for now, I can't make a very good demo, but I'm going to try. 1 second. Oop. Maybe. Maybe not. Otherwise, I will do it with my phone. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to work. All right, it's not a big issue. So what does that mean? It means that basically VoiceOver and TalkBack are a feature that you can enable on phones. For example, I'm going to activate mine. I don't know if you hear. It just said VoiceOver on, so it just enabled VoiceOver. And what does that do now? Usually when you go, for example, from one page to another, you just scroll and you just tap on things with your finger. And now it doesn't exactly do the same. It's more like, for example, a tablet with speakers now. Now I can just go there and just with gesture,
Instagram, unfold, WhatsApp,
I can just change
double tap
like
to open.
what is focused on my screen without having to basically look at it. I can just make basic gesture, like a swipe on the left or a swipe on the right. I can double tap to make a single tap basically if you don't have VoiceOver on, and that allows you to basically move over your phone without having if you are blind, for example. This is what basically most blind people use. If I want to go, for example, on my WhatsApp conversation, I can just double tap anywhere on my screen. I don't have to double tap on the WhatsApp, but I can just double tap anywhere and just open WhatsApp.
11, back button.
And now it just basically reads all my conversation. So
VoiceOver off.
I'm just going to turn it off. And basically, VoiceOver is super useful because any application is basically supported. It means like you don't have to make anything specific, so that screen reader will be able to go over your screen and read what's happening at your screen. But this is where there is a big but. Sometimes it just get it wrong because it's a thing about context. It's basically a dumb piece of tech. It just go over your screen, and if you see writing like the text, I don't know, Belgium, it's just going to say Belgium. But maybe there is a context with the word Belgium. Maybe it was Belgium because it's written like a flag, and you want to write flag of Belgium or something like this. And this is where enter semantics. So, up. Oh, I was not in focus. Semantics. So in Flutter, we have 5 kind of semantics. Yes, 5. But there is basically 4 that we basically really use. We have the semantics, and I'm just going to go over it exactly what does that mean, semantics by itself. And we have the semantics is just basically a way to label a widget and just give extra data like metadata to the VoiceOver, to TalkBack, so they can read properly what you have in focus. We also have merge semantics, where basically you have 2 elements and you're going to merge them in one element, so it's going to select the whole element itself. We also have block semantics, which is very simple, as its name indicates. You can basically say that this element can be read or not read, or read as a toggle, basically. And we also have exclude semantics, where basically you just say that you will never go over this item, and you will never read what's corresponding to this. And we have the indexed semantics, but we basically never use it. It's for basically only list views and list, so we mostly just never use it. All right, so what does it even mean when I was speaking about semantics? For example, here we have an icon button. My icon button is basically just deleting something, I guess, because it's have an icon of a trash can, so the icon delete. But maybe for my TalkBack is going to go over it, and he's going to say, oh, icon button, because he sees it's an icon and he sees that it's a button. But he will have no idea what does it does. Maybe it's an icon button for adding an object, not deleting it. And this is where we go over semantics, and we just add some stuff. We say that it's a button. Yes, true. Is it a label? Yes, okay, true. And what is a label? The label will be probably delete the item. Then when I go over with VoiceOver or TalkBack, he will say, delete the item button. So this way, we understand that it's a button and it will actually delete the item and not do the opposite or something else. All right, so maybe for those who already experimented with semantics, I don't know if somebody have, I don't know. But for those who already experimented with semantics, we have actually in Matter app a flag that have been passed down and which is like super useful, which is called like show semantics debugger. I don't know if somebody ever used this flag. No? Okay, one. Okay. So now you might be shocked, but when you turn on this flag, you will have this kind of view. The one in the middle, I mean. So for example, on the right, left, I don't know. I'm still bad with it. Sorry. So on the first one, you have like the app that I'm actually building, for example. So for somebody who is like visually impaired, there is no problem. You understand very quickly what is what. You go over the button, you see that there is a menu button, there is accessibility, there is choose a place, there is a button for QR code, and there is some icons. No problem at all. In the middle one, basically we have the flag turn on for semantics, but we didn't do any optimization of the semantics at all. So it's basically we just like develop the application and we just ship it like this. The issue with this, and you can see that, for example, the sandwich button is called just button, and it have no name. You have no idea what does it mean exactly. For example, also we have the little lens icon, and it's just a square with nothing in it. And we also have like the QR code button, which is like just labeled as button again, and it has no context at all. And this is why you want to go over it, over your existing code, and add semantics widget. Why? Because on the third example, we have like more context. I have to come back closer because I don't see it from there. But we have like, for example, the open the menu button. Before we had this nothing. We just have button, and we have no idea what it means. But now we know that the button actually opened the menu. We also have, for example, for the QR code, where we had nothing, we have like a scan a QR code button. Again, we know exactly what that does. And for the last, and there we use like the excluded semantics for the lens icon, which bring nothing for blind people or visually impaired people. They don't care there's a lens icon because they're not going to see it anyway. So we're just going to destroy it. We're just going to trash it. So visually impaired people don't see it. So there is basically they're just going to swipe over it. And for people who actually can see, they see it, and for them it's beautiful. This is a way to basically make a little bit of like, I don't know how to translate this actually. Basically just like make something where everybody will be happy with the solution. All right, and still for the sensory disabilities, but also for a lot of other disabilities, and we'll see back again, we have the sensory reminders. I call these sensory reminders. I don't know if it have a name actually. What does that mean exactly? It means, for example, on the bad example, we have an email address and password form. And we, as visually impaired people, we can see clearly that there is an error because the box is red, and we understand that there is an error. But for somebody who maybe have daltonism or maybe have like some other condition and can't see, for example, the color red, he will go over it and he will see, oh, the website doesn't work because it's just black and it just stay black, and I have no idea why it doesn't work. And that's why we have sensory reminders. What does that mean? It means that we should always show a success or a failure both ways. For color or text, or a color and a haptic feedback or something. You have to show it both ways, because like there is a percentage of people who will not understand that the first way that that you intend to was correct or a failure. All right, so now we finish with the blind and visually impaired people. We can speak about deaf and hard of hearing. So it's not super complicated. We can add subtitles to media. I don't know if you have, like, for example, if you embed a YouTube video on your website or on your app, whatever, there is like just a little thing to add in a link to add like basically subtitles. It's super easy. And we also add like sensory reminders. This is like quite easy for them. Now about cognitive disabilities, we have dyslexia. Dyslexia is like quite hard actually to find any solution for them, but we try. And when we try, we basically have like two fonts, which is like Arabic dyslexia and Open Dyslexic. Here you have Open Dyslexic, which is basically fonts that basically help or not help. It depends. It's quite controversial. Some people they find that it helps them to read better, and some other are not. So the thing is, like, anyway, it takes like a 5-minute thing. It's a 5-minute thing in your Flutter app. You go there, you put it in the settings, add a font for dyslexic and dyslexic people. You go there, you turn it on. It's just a toggle, and like you're done. And it's like a 5-minute thing, and maybe just with that you help at some people. We also have ADHD, and ADHD is also quite difficult to have to fix basically. So what we can do is more like recommendations. There is no real fix for it. And my recommendation is like to having clean, streamlined interfaces. So no like big mess, no big form who are like 20 page long or something like this. You want to have like very focusable, understandable with the next button or something like this, which is very short and concise on what you need to do. We can also avoid long time as much as possible, of course, because these people are basically having trouble to focus. So you don't want to have like a loading icon for like 40 seconds or something like this. You want to keep it as short as possible, but I think like this is just like what we do usually. And we can also speak about epilepsy. For epilepsy, we can try to just basically not having like big changes of colors. And I think about usually dark theme. We usually have like some kind of dark theme on over our apps, and it takes again 3-4 lines to just add an animation and make that over like 500 milliseconds or 1 second. This way, we are sure that we don't bring epilepsy to some people who will be like who have like this kind of disease, and it takes like again 4 or 5 lines of codes. Again, for mobility disabilities, we will basically bring together temporary and person with reduced mobility, because as you see, temporary is basically just somebody who could have it's just a person with reduced mobility, but over a short period of time. So we'll just treat them together. So what do we do for them? We add like button and easy to access UX. What does that mean? That means, for example, we all have like these problems where we have an add button which is like super far away, and I don't know. Maybe I just have like very short hands, I don't know. But for me, it's super hard to go this way. And if you're only doing like with one arm, you have more chance of dropping your phone on the floor than doing anything else. So the goal is like to keep like super simple application. And I recommend you to just go over and try your apps with only one hand. You just go over one hand and you just go and try to do every action possible on your app with one hand. If you can do it, you're probably good. If you don't, probably something to modify them. All right, we also have adapted mapping. Okay, this one is hard, and I don't think a lot of people will add it. But what does that even mean? It means that, for example, if you have like some people who are in a wheelchair, for example, and you are making a mapping application, or you use Google Maps for whatever reason, for, I don't know, making some specific itinerary or something like this. You want to always find a solution to get to have like people who are in a wheelchair to not go over stair, not go over elevator, not go over any obstacle who can like basically block them in their process. So this is not very easy, because basically usually when you do that you have to do custom maps, and that's quite hard. but I've done it and it works. I think mostly, but that's also very great. And you can also do this kind of mapping for also cognitive disease. For example, ADHD, you can usually, more than like just showing the itinerary like Google Maps, you can basically show a compass and like saying like, okay, go forward 40 meters, and now okay, go on the left for 40 meters, and again and again and again. It's way easier for them than just having like a whole list of instruction where they basically just become a mess for them. All right, and this one is my favorite because I didn't talk about it yet. It's a territorial accessibility. This one I have a little quiz for you. What is this app? Shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, it's Facebook. Okay, now a little bit harder, but I don't know. What is this app? And don't tell me it's Facebook in white, because it's not. It's no. It's not business. It's Facebook Lite. So what is Facebook Lite? Facebook Lite is something that we don't really hear because we are very privileged and we live like in a country where mostly everything works very well. But there is some country where, for example, data is very expensive. Maybe you go over a country and I don't know, maybe you go to, I don't know, somewhere in a third world country and it's very expensive to buy data. And maybe not everybody have an iPhone and maybe not everybody has the latest iPhone, so it's difficult. So, for example, if we make a comparison between like Facebook and Facebook Lite, we have huge difference. The first one is that Facebook is like 75 megabytes, where Facebook Lite is only 2 megabytes. 2 megabytes is not a lot. And for Facebook and Android, we only use Android 11 and more, which is basically we have a whole amount of e-waste that will never be usable because like all those phones are never going to be able to use Facebook. Where we have also Facebook Lite, who basically use Android 8, which is like way older, and we can basically still recycle or reuse those phones that we'll never use. And Facebook Lite is also basically making less requests or also using less animation. And what you can do about that is, I hope everybody is trying to, is not making like the biggest bundle ever if you can, and basically just dropping any assets that you don't use. Also making like optimized requests, not making like 2 requests because it's just easier or something like this. And that's the goal, like just having like using less data. It's good for environment, good for data center, good for everybody, you're paying less, I don't know. It's a win-win situation. If you want to go further, I have like basically a lot of this link and I can hand it over for you later on. The ETSIEN 301549 is the EAA Act that I just spoke about. It's like super annoying to read, but you can find somebody who basically summarizes for you. We have also the documentation of accessibility in Flutter. Rebuild App Studios, I don't speak about them, but they make a framework to test your accessibility, because I won't speak about tests, but there is nothing that you can really test automatically with accessibility. You have to test most of the things manually. This is really time consuming and really annoying, but this is the only way. And after you have a lot of other stuff, and you also have like basically code labs for accessibilities over like many technologies, and you have more of those just after. So, so I hope like everybody will learn something about accessibility with my talk. I hope I didn't struggle too much to speak English, and this is me. Yeah, question. Oh.
Hi, it's something about the dyslexia.
Yeah.
It's more about the spacing of the letters than actually the font.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not saying you should use the MSN with all the, I don't know how many things, but if you put more space between the letters, you can use more fonts. because it's actually the closeness of the letters that makes it hard for dyslexic people.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's totally probably true. I mean, like, I'm not saying not, because it's not. I just say that, for example, there is a lot of people, this is why I say it's controversial, because some people that helps them and some people that don't help them. Usually they also have a lot of issues with letters that goes over the down or the top. For example, a B or a Q, they have issues because it goes one way or the other, and they also have trouble usually with the B and the D, which are like basically the same letter but upside down or like one way or the other. But yeah, it's totally different for all of the other thing. I think like even in Flutter we can basically just like make the font spacing. We have a thing for it, and we can basically just also propose a slider and like say like, yeah, let's make some more space between like our character, and I don't think it will be an issue at all. I'm like, this configuration, you have to find like the right degree on what do you want to configure or not in your app, and that's not easy because maybe you're targeting more business app, maybe more an internal app for your company, or maybe just something like very specific for disabled people, and this way you probably have like more configuration over it.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. You showed a slide where you did an analysis of the Olympic website, where it said like you have, which tool did you use to run that analysis?
I actually didn't do it myself, so I don't know. I found it on Twitter and I found it like very, very funny that it was like already almost 1.5 months like close to Olympics, and it have that much issue, and apparently they didn't work at all over it. So. What is worse is that it's the same website for Paralympics, so I don't know what's going on, but that kind of sucks. So.
I was curious when I saw the semantics written out.
Yeah.
How could we help provide enough context to the user there? Because you have certain titles, and for us it's clear that it's like within a card that it's actually the title of a section. But would that be clear as well to?
It's not especially clear for blind people. Sometimes, I mean, like most of the time, like basically the text that you want to do, like the label of the semantics will be like the same as the text that you put in your text widget. But sometimes it needs more context and you have to add it manually. For example, like I think like I have it, for example, for the scan button at some point, I just say scan scan a QR code or something like this. But there is no text widget. It just say over it, like say, oh, okay, like provide any context you want basically at the end. It's like free. You don't have to follow basically the text that you're putting under it. If you want to say, for example, title of the section, ... like this is my title, you can do it. Like nothing is preventing you to do it, and it might be useful for somebody. So go for it.
Hi. Have you ever used package accessibility tools? Because it gave a nice possibility. It gives warnings. For your missing semantic labels,
there is some package that are helpful, like accessibility tools. I think it's made by Rebel App Studio, and like they does a lot of stuff. For example, exactly that, like telling you where text are missing semantics widgets or label over it. And it also, for example, does when you have a button and it's not 48 by 48 pixel, it tells you that it's too small for basically tapping on it. It does a lot of other stuff, so yeah, I've tried it many times. I think it's a great tool, but it's still not something which is standardized, and it's a big issue because we need something which is basically standardized, and that's why I have faith in the European Act.
Thank you.
Maybe just one more. How is the accessibility in Ubuntu?
It's here. I didn't work on that personally, but I know that it does. It is here. I feel like there is some issues with some some languages. I didn't speak about in this talk, but for example, from when we have left to right language usually in Europe, but there is also right to left, for example, Arabic or something like this. And this is more also an issue because you have to think about overflow, but on the other way and some other stuff. So it's a whole mess, but I know that there is there is dark mode, there is screen readers, there is some of the things who are supported, but again, I didn't work on that, so I can't provide any detail.
All right, thanks.
Thanks indeed for your talk. My question, when you go through a website, you use, for example, tab to go to the next focused item. Should I consider that as well for my semantics labels? Or is that even something different that you should consider?
What do you mean exactly by that?
So if you open a website and you press tab, the first selectable or focusable item in your website will be will have like a blue
so
rectangle.
One will be like the one who is read.
Indeed. So basically, your screen reader would go the same flow, I think.
Yeah.
Should you consider something related to focus when doing accessibility?
You should consider it. For example, you should consider at least that all screen readers go from top to bottom all the time. So if you have like your next button, which is like on top left, for example, then you will have the title and next. And like some people will just go over next, and like they will never read the content of your page because they will not even aware that there was content over your page. And also something you have to be aware, you cannot move the focus of the screen readers. For example, if you have TalkBack and you think that maybe you click on this button and that because you click on this button, it brings back the focus on some other widget that you want, it's not possible. And it's not possible just because it was ruled out that developer would do nonsense with it. So they just say, we're just going to keep like from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So
considering that, how accessible is a bottom navigation?
How is accessible what?
How accessible is a bottom navigation? So 3 or 5 tabs at the bottom of your screen. If users always need to go through the full screen, and for example, there's
more gesture. I don't know them exactly, every one of them, all of them at least. But there is some gesture where you do like 3 fingers and stuff like this and everything. And there is also, I have a friend which is blind that I've seen like most of the time, like his voiceover is like going like crazy, like very, very, very fast. And he used also a lot of Siri. Siri is a big help for him. So sometimes he just go, if you don't want like to scroll 4 pages for just going to an application which is like on his 4th landing page on iPhone, for example, he can just go there and like say, oh, launch whatever, and like he just like launch whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's. Again, accessibility is not perfect. I think it's a domain that we just started care about. I mean, like probably like 10, 15 years ago. So it's definitely not far from perfect. But we make big progress in it. And like again, I think like the EA is a good thing because we are finally taking care of like people that need to be taken care of. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Do you have an idea on how well Flutter and platform views work with the semantics?
Yes.
Is it red or not?
Badly. Basically, there is a lot of stuff that doesn't go well. For example, if you are iframe or anything that goes over like this way, it's just going to select the whole frame and not select what's inside the frame because he's not aware that this is like an element which is embedding something else inside of it. So this is why you should like try to not have like that as much as possible. But again, like this is not something, it's depending of every case, every application is different. There is not again a one solution thing. It's not like something like you can just go over it and say like, yeah, let's just do like this for every app because it just doesn't work. There is also a big problem with shorts. Because shorts sometimes they have curve, and like for us we can definitely see that, for example, it's a curve that go up or down or something like this, and you can see that, for example, I don't know, if you have a short over the year, you can see, for example, 2014, oh yes, this was this amount, but this to bring this accessible, it's a big mess. Honestly, it's just easier to just usually just reducing the amount of data and just say like, yeah, the charts show the evolution from 2014 to nowadays, and the charts are showing an increase of that many percent. Because you can't just show like saying like, oh yeah, 2016 it was great or not or whatever, you know. So it's more complicated.
Okay, thank you.
One more question.
Very quick one. Like snack bars and toast messages. Are these also, because you mentioned if you enter your password faultly,
yeah,
you noticed you mentioned let me just render a text widget or something underneath in red, or are those messages and snack bars also, if they come up, are they red? Did they get the focus?
Snack bar are red over the top because they are scaffold of Messenger, whatever. So that means that they are like on top, more than top than the view itself. But yeah, for example, if you just make like the error at the bottom, like for example, there is an error, this is just a text, it's not going to be read by the voiceover thing. But at this point, because like this is more like for people who don't have full blindness, that you do like this kind of like sensorial, I forgot how I called them, but you got what you know what I mean. But if you have full blindness, it's just better to just like make up when you tap on the submit thing, you just go you are not connected. You can just say you are not connected, or so, oh no, error in the password or email or something. Like you can just like you can just go over that more than just like. Because you are not limited to semantics only, you can also have like anons. Anons is like a thing that exists on Flutter and in basically every technology, where you can just say that, for example, when you have a callback, and you can say, the telephone can just say whatever that. And the problem is that you cannot say it like only for people who only have these abilities. So you can have kind of like a tweak of saying like, if the person have like activated this and this and this option, then you can guess that he's probably blind. Then like you can probably announce stuff and not announce it for people who are not blind. That's
okay, thank you.
Right. Yeah, I think that's yeah. Okay.
I'm still going to be there. No? I'm not leaving.
So I think thanks again for your talk.